Every who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton, but where to get great prices on gifts they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do, cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Running a business means I wear lots of hats. Luckily, when it's time to put on my hiring hat, I can count on LinkedIn to make it easy. I can post a job for free or pay to promote it and get 3 times more qualified candidates. Imagine finding your next great hire in 24 hours. 86% of small businesses do. With LinkedIn, I can also easily share my job with my network. No other job site lets me do that. Post your free job at linkedin.com/achieve. That's linkedin.com/achieve. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, professional speaker, published author, wearer of many hats. With me, as always, is which one should I do today? I'm going to do the Chip to my Dale, Mr. Jake Noonan. Say hi, Jake.
Hey, everybody. Great as always to be here. Dr. Matt, did you ever play on Super Nintendo, I want to say, there was a Chip and Dale Rescue Ranger game?
I absolutely did. That game was super great, and I still remember having to jump up and down on the washers and the screws.
Yes.
Turn.
Yes.
Because they were little, they were chipmunks, right? I remember like, it's physics. I know physics.
You can't just jump on a screw and then it does it.
That's not how it, oh my God, this is such a different reference. But in the first Tomb Raider movie, Angelina Jolie playing Lara Croft is on this swinging platform and she needs to swing to the edge so she can leap to safety. So she just shifts her weight so the thing starts moving enough that she can jump. I was like, that's not how that works. That's an object at rest tends to stay at rest, damn it. Which is not the only problem with that movie, but of course, I think most people weren't there to see the physics.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I don't think the people writing it were even there for the physics, so.
This will look cool on screen. Shh, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Well, we have an awesome guest today. We always have awesome guests, but we have a particularly awesome guest today because Gordon is one of my colleagues who does mental health for gifted people. Whereas I see more kids, Gordon sees more adults. Gordon Smith, welcome to the pod. We are so excited to have you here. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Tell our audience who you are, what do you do? Everybody wants to know.
Everybody
wants to know. Well, lean in, kids. Lean in. Yeah, I've been a mental health clinician for 25 years, and in my practice, I do individual counseling and family counseling. I also have a coaching wing of the practice where I do individual and group coaching. And some of that is like creative consciousness as avenue to personal development. But it's all gifted people. It's adolescents and adults. Also incorporate improv. I have worn a lot of hats in my community. I've been here in Asheville, North Carolina since the early 90s and have been an elected member of my city council. I did that for 2 terms. Have done all sorts of community organizing here and am a published poet, an avid disc golfer and chess player. I really enjoy being able to hang out with friends and travel and take long walks on the beach.
All of those beaches in Asheville, North Carolina.
That's right. That's right. I just realized it sounded like my dating profile there for a second.
Hey, listen, if it helps you get a date, we're here for it. We'll put that in our social media.
Click here to apply.
Yeah.
Well, let me jump in because I realized I kind of just started going autopilot there. This question of, tell us who you are. It's just like, oh, for God's sakes, like where do you unspool that? It's right, goes straight to gifted people make hard things easy and easy things hard. Tell us a little about yourself.
Nailed it.
Like, oh my God, that's an impossible question. Well, I will say that I'm multiply neurodivergent. I am gifted. I have all these autistic and characteristics of what they call ADHD, as well as some other flavors mixed in there into my gumbo that I'm walking around with for a consciousness. And it was about 9 years ago now that I was doing a review of my practice, and I was a generalist at the time, and I pulled out 7 years of appointment books. I used to keep the paper ones.
I miss those. I miss those.
And I like leafed through it and looked at all the names of all the people that I'd seen, and I pulled out the names of the people I felt like I'd done my best work with. And then I asked myself what they had in common. And this was it. They were all gifted people. And I then asked myself the question, I wonder if there's any literature on this. Fell down the rabbit hole, went through my own disintegrative process, acquired mentors, and recentered my entire professional life on working with gifted people.
What was that like? Like transitioning in a sense? Because it sounds like the way that you're talking about it sounds kind of simple, and I'm sure it was not very simple.
I have always been a fan of audacity. And there's something audacious about, in mental health world, oftentimes people will say, you need to develop your niche. What is your specialty area? People say, I'm a trauma guy, or they'll say, I'm a acceptance and commitment therapy person. And what I said was, I work with gifted people. And I named a demographic. And so this is a bold move to simply say that, and to do so, decontextualize it from all the cultural baggage that the term has, and simply not apply it, not utilize that cultural context, and simply come at it clean. To say, I work with gifted adolescents and adults. There's really specific areas of concern and types of experiences that these folks are having that aren't being served by neuronormative mental health culture. So was it easy? No. Was it fun? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It was super fun. Yeah.
And I love the word neuronormative, by the way. I don't think I've ever put those two words together.
Mm.
We talk about all the time how the world is built for and by neurotypical people. That creates the monoculture, right? And therapy is totally neuronormative. And, as we work with similar populations, it's amazing to have someone sit down across from you and be like, listen, I'm not trying to fix you.
Right.
I'm not trying to cure your ADHD. I'm not trying to make you less autistic. I'm trying to say, your brain works this way. The world works another way. I'm going to give you skills and tools and strategies to navigate this world that's not built for you. And people ask me all the time, it's like, well, like, how are you so good at your job? How do you connect with these kids? What do you know that I don't know? I'm like, it's actually, I don't know. I don't have any special therapy that somebody else doesn't have access to. I'm just really good at saying, I get it. Like, I know what it's like to be a neurodivergent person and to struggle with this stuff. I can't fix your life, but I know enough of the psychology stuff that if you share with me what you're going through, we got a fighting chance to make your life better. That's one of the things, Gordon, I've always respected about you as a clinician, is I think you have that gift of like really seeing someone, like really like, I get you as a person. You're not like, you're an autistic person, like, you're Steve. And I think that's not every therapist has that.
Well, hope Steve doesn't mind being name checked.
Steve's got a big ego, as we know.
No, but you raise this question of how we approach people as people, and that the neuronormative frames that folks are existing and dwelling within have created certain ways that we end up perceiving ourselves. We end up internalizing our self-concepts through the greater culture's application of a medical model to our lived experience versus approaching our own consciousness and own existence from a neurodiversity paradigm that says this is an ecological model. We all have a place in this ecosystem of humanity, and that I'm not operating from deficit. The birch tree does not have oak tree deficit disorder. Like this is simply a different part of this ecosystem. And so part of what my work is helping people find themselves in that ecology and learn to be able to toggle between that medical model perspective of the dominant culture and this neurodiversity paradigm, which is this place where we get to see ourselves clearly and without judgment and with great curiosity and as interconnected.
I love that so much, especially because it's like the oscillation between the two, where it's like you can do both at the exact same time
Yeah.
and individually at the exact same time.
Right, yeah, you can roll into school and be like, I need my accommodations. I got my ADHD diagnosis. Check me out. And then you can roll home and be like, oh, I need to be adequately stimulated right now in a way that's going to be healthy for me. And we get to put away the pathology language.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, like it's so nice to talk to professionals who are also stepping away from this pathology language. It drives me up a wall. I think it hurts our clients, frankly. Like I think it's this, like you said, you wouldn't say an elm tree that has oak tree deficit disorder.
Right.
People get enough messages that they're broken. We need to help them see the good in them. But I'm actually going to take this in a slightly different direction. You used the word interconnected before. And I think one of the things that I find really fascinating about you, Gordon the person, is that you are deeply rooted in Nashville, right? For those of you who are not in the therapy space, let me just dissemble for a minute here. The old model of therapy was therapist as God. Like you sat in the room with your tweed and your beard and your pipe, and you sat there and you were unknowable. Like you like the classic models, you didn't exist in the therapy space. The person just spilled their guts and you interpreted, right? Once again, therapist as God. And like therapists were not of their communities. They didn't sit on city councils. They didn't go in chamber of commerce. They might teach a class at the local university because that is also a place where therapist is God. But over the last, I don't know, 20-ish years, you've seen the humanizing of the therapy and this idea that people want to be in the room with a person, right? Not this sort of cipher. So, like, Gordon, you're more plugged in to Asheville than I think a lot of therapists would be into their communities. Tell me, like, what drives you to that, and how do you think it impacts your practice?
Ooh, can I add on to that?
Of course.
How do you think that impacts you as well?
Ooh.
So the question, as I understand it, is like, what is my motivation for being as deeply involved in community as I am? And what is then the feedback loop there that reciprocally affects me in return?
Nailed it.
All right, here we go. Yeah, lean in, kids.
Hold on, everyone, please buckle your seatbelts. The captain has turned on the self-reflection light.
When I was a younger person, before I was an adult, I found myself really mystified with people and like how they seem to move through really mystifying situations with such ease. And I definitely felt that difference of the gifted kid and went through all of my own kind of camouflaging to adapt to those circumstances. Once I got to college and beyond, what I learned was that I could organize my own circles in which I got to kind of be myself on my own terms.
Hmm.
versus entering someone else's set of expectations. And so I was the community catalyst. I'm starting clubs. I'm not joining any, but I'm starting them.
Who joins things?
And so as this moves forward and I grow older, it went from organizing like clubs on academic campuses to throwing massive parties and events that would take a long time to plan, but being this catalyst for novel experience and to move people out of prescribed roles and prescribed scripts, so we could be kind of on equal footing. And I did quite a lot of that and then started getting deeper and deeper into political stuff in the wake of the 2004 presidential election when John Kerry choked. I don't know, it's ancient history, but it led me to wonder what my sphere of influence was beyond simply this like fun maker. And so I started doing a lot of writing and political writing and started to form community around that. And through kind of like bold, kind of putting myself out there in authentic and sometimes inflammatory ways, drew a lot of people to me. And so then I started another club. I started a club called Drinking Liberally. Um,
Damn, that's good.
where we got together and hung out at a bar once a week, and it was just people who wanted to talk about politics with people who cared. And through this, my community grew. And pretty soon, people are asking, "Hey, have you thought about running for office? You know, you clearly have a knack for this kind of creating conversations and listening, and not like pushing anyone out the door because they don't agree with you or whatever." And so here's this organizing, right? And here is me being invited into the community and encouraged by the community. Jake, you were asking how it fed back. And so I was emboldened and encouraged by that community to eventually organize and run campaigns. And then within that role, once I was on city council, I did other organizing efforts to bring together other parts of our community in an effort to just improve conditions, a food policy council to try to increase food security, served on the Affordable Housing Advisory Commission and these other affordable housing places. But anyway, these deep priorities of my own, and the needs of the community dovetailing where I could like bring all of my gifted intensities and willingness to lean in and be in community and as messy as that can be. Well, then I decided I was done with all that political stuff. It got a little boring. I was just kind of like doing maintenance work. I'd gotten a bunch of stuff off the ground and then it's like shepherding and maintenance, not a lot of initiation. It was also working a full-time job, running a full-time private practice while being a full-time member of city council, which included being on like a dozen different boards and commissions at any given time and attending every single public thing and it taking 3 hours to go grocery shopping. So I don't know if this is an answer to your question. It feels a bit long-winded, but the thing is I see the value of the collective efforts, and that when people are willing to work in concert around things that they agree on, they are often willing to lay down whatever they disagree on for the duration of the effort. And that kind of potential is something that feels really juicy to me.
But the idea of finding a place to actualize your passions, right? To take those interests and make them kinetic energy, not potential energy. Because I think this is one of my more woo-woo stances as a mental health professional. But I'm like, if you're not actualizing your energy, I think that creates a lot of mental health distress. Like you say, like you're a starter of clubs, you're not a joiner of clubs, right? You got things off the ground, but then the maintenance work. I had a client who did NASA Space Camp a couple of years ago, and he came back. I was like, "How was he?" He was like, "Honestly, I would have to be ground crew. I don't want to be up in the spaceship like, oh, hold on, I need to make sure these levels are within the green. I need to make sure this screw is tightened." Like you're on the ground, you're solving problems, you're dealing with that. I was like, that had never like to me. I would want to be an astronaut. Put me on the damn suit. I want to be in space. He's like, no, that would be boring. That's all maintenance work. right on the ground, that's really the heavy level thinking. And I was like, man, but that's the way his giftedness, that energy would manifest.
Yeah, yeah, and so and I can recognize that. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people who love that maintenance stuff,
Mhm.
who love like that creation of stability and sustainable systems and like just like keeping those machines oiled. And they're great at it. And I'm so glad. Yeah, yeah. And that kind of deciding where my sphere of influence lies and whether and how to explore that in my own life. And so when we bring that back around to clients, that's that internal sphere of influence. Oh, I have a certain measure of control over what's happening internally. Initially, it doesn't necessarily feel that way as people are negotiating and navigating self-awareness. But as they move from self-awareness, like initial self-awareness, to a deeper self-understanding, there's this sense of, oh, okay, like I can monitor when my nervous system is tipping me out of my window of tolerance into a place where I'm not feeling good, and how to bring myself back into good. And from there to develop a sense of self-trust and self-efficacy. And this is all within this control sphere. And then we get to move out to sphere of influence. Okay, well, now here's a bunch of stuff that I don't get to control, but I do get to lean into as I'm drawn, as I'm interested in doing so. And for me, it was some of this organizing. I'm one of these ambiverts, you know, I'll be super social and then I'm gone for like 2 weeks. And so I could apply all that social energy and get something moving and then be able to withdraw and not have to be there shepherding all the time. So this is a way I get to influence and be taking care of myself.
I have a completely random seeming question, but it's like interlaced with a lot of what you've been talking about. Especially the aspects of community, the aspects of like self-actualization that you've been just talking about,
Mhm.
and knowing that a lot of like my students are queer, but especially like looking at the gender journey more than anything else currently.
Yeah.
Like I'm I just want to first reflect that having a space and hearing how you operate in a sense with your clients and everybody is allowing the space for them to be able to explore that.
That's right.
And I want to just thank you first for that, obviously for the people around you that you influence with that. But then also, I want to like ask from that, what kind of concerns and what kind of struggles are you seeing? Whether it's somebody who's on the gender journey, sexuality journey, or anything, or something completely different that is going through all of this. What do you constantly end up hearing from them as like a big concern, big struggle, big need from the broader monoculture? And I also ask that because it's like a more safe place for them to express all of these kind of things that typical people might usually not end up hearing.
Yes. When people are existing in some sort of conventional cultural institution, like a school or a church, then there are certain things that are expected and certain things that are taboo. And institutions tend to value stability. And so anything that is not more conformity driven is often resisted because the stability of the institution is paramount. So all of the people who are experiencing these conventional ways of being and don't see themselves mirrored or met within those do need this place to freely explore. And if they choose to remain in these conventional institutions, it does become this question of, okay, who am I? What shame have I internalized that I need to be able to excise from myself so I can come into this self-awareness and self-understanding and self-knowledge and self-trust to be able to move toward whatever form of self-advocacy I'm going to be doing. And that might be gender expression, that might be sexuality expression, that might be calling out ableism. It could simply be asking for someone to let you wear sunglasses in class. And so, yes, there are, y'all are well aware that once we get into neurodivergent people, that the incidence of gender fluidity, sexuality fluidity, all the fluidities show up. It's hilarious that autistic people are characterized as rigid when it's like the most fluid ass group of people you've ever met. So, yeah, that's the short answer.
I just was down in Raleigh giving a talk on this, the intersection of neurodivergence and LGBTQ identities. And I'm like, listen, it's somewhere between 38 and 70%, which is a terrible range of statistics. I would say 1 and 2, right? And honestly, for me, I've always been an ally to the LGBTQ community because I was a theater kid from a young age. So I was like, oh, these are gay people. Cool. They're my friends. Oh, this person is trans. Oh, cool. That's what that is. Like, but now I get to do that professionally. And a big, because it's like to honor a person is honoring all aspects of that person, who they love, how they feel, how they present in the world. And I got to speak to, some early career mental health professionals recently, and that question came up, and I was like, listen, if you can't support the LGBTQ community, you have a good referral list, and honestly, seriously consider getting out of this profession. And that ruffled some feathers, but you know what?
It's right there in the code of ethics. If you're not going to be culturally responsive and really meeting people where they are, then you don't have any business here.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh, well, let's not talk about your boyfriend. Why? Like I would talk about a girl's boyfriend with her. Why would I not talk about with a boy's boyfriend or a gender non-binary person's boyfriend? It just like what we see as general humanity, unfortunately seen by many large pockets of the country as something illicit or illegal or terrible. And I think the stakes are so high we can't back down.
Yeah, and one thing about the therapeutic process is we don't have to play defense at any point in it, right? We don't have to have that argument when I'm in a therapy session. We have to have an argument with the conventional world about whether this is okay to talk about. We're simply going to talk about it and notice what that brings up, and then over time be able to make some choices about how to consciously and in an empowered way encounter that world that may choose not to acknowledge you. Yeah, it's a powerful place to be able to say, yeah, we're stepping outside of all of that. Like this really is an open space expedition into what your experience of living is, what your experience of consciousness is, and then how you want to bring that to bear on the time that you have.
And I think that's so powerful to just thinking about the therapeutic space, like where you're with a client, where somebody's with somebody else, and being able to acknowledge all of the cultural stuff and the systems and like
Yeah.
all of the things around us that are like, hey, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. You can't talk about that. And then be like, hey, we're gonna just put that in a box and get rid of it for a second. So for this like hour, what have you, let's really go into that stuff and be like, it's okay to.
That's right. And that acknowledgement is so important, right? If we're talking, one of the things people are talking about these days is how to decolonize therapy. And that one of the tools of decolonization is to dispense with the taboo of questioning the dominant culture, and to go ahead and open that by opening it.
Yeah, like there can be a dominant culture, but at the same time, can it also allow space for non-dominant cultures?
Yeah. Yeah. I run this group in town now. Speaking of my organizing, it's called the Big Asheville Science Salon. We get a research scientist to come once a month and present their research in a narrative form at a bar, kind of turn it into a circus and make it super fun. And I open every week with saying this is an anti-sexist, anti-racist, anti-ableist, all neurodivergence affirming, all spirituality affirming, all gender affirming, all sexuality affirming space. You are welcome here. So we name it. We name it and open the space.
Now that's, I mean, that's amazing. But like, there's so much power in saying that overtly, right? Making those unspoken things spoken, right? I don't want anybody I see to hope I'm on their side.
Right. I don't want it to be implicit. I want it to be explicit. Just like it is for every client that walks through the door, right?
And like weirdly, this goes up against like this like parallels universal design, right? Because really, neurodivergent people need us to make the unspoken things spoken. Like we don't do great with subtext, right? We're good with text and metatext. But like just like how in a classroom we'd want to name the unspoken rules in addition to the spoken rules, in therapy, I think that's why so many neurodivergent people like therapy, affirming therapy, is that we're in there saying we're going to make all the rules explicit. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do. Right. I had a client recently. She had come to our therapy session like she'd just come from the pool. She was wearing like a bikini and like a cover up. She's like, "Is this weird? Is this inappropriate?" I'm like, "I love that we can talk about that in this space. I don't think it is, right?
Right.
But like, imagine like talking to like your uncle or your dad's friend from work. Like, there's you enter into shades of gray that you're not even sure if you're playing the same game as the person sitting across the table from you. So it helps everybody when we say these things out loud because it tells everybody where the lines are and what the rules of engagement are. And then also chases out all the neo-Nazis and jerks that might have tried to sneak into your salon, which, get them out of here. So Gordon, so you're still doing these salons.
Yeah.
And I think I would be remiss if I didn't ask you both as a resident of Western Carolina, but also as a political figure in Western Carolina. There were the horrific floods last year. And I remember like seeing you pop up on my social media and you'd done a video like, we're in the car, we're safe, we're going to get supplies. And I remember feeling such like a deep sense of like relief in my chest because it's like, how do you ask if somebody's okay if you don't know how to reach them? And unfortunately, with the way things are in this country right now and the media cycle, I feel like people have forgotten. I feel like people have forgotten what this horrific, the most expensive natural disaster in North Carolina history. How are you guys doing? Is there more help you need? And if so, like, how could our listeners help Western North Carolina?
Well, what a kind thing to ask, Matt. I really appreciate that. Yeah, September 27th will be the anniversary. So it's coming up pretty quick. And yeah, there are still a lot of needs in the community. There's still over 10,000 people who are displaced. They're still replacing roads and bridges. There were entire towns that were submerged that are still digging out. So many places aren't functioning. The town of Swannanoa still doesn't have a grocery store. There were well over 2,000 landslides here that remade the landscape, and the USGS is having to come in and remap the area because rivers changed their course. Yeah, it was the scale of it is beyond comprehension until you start driving around here. That said, Asheville, it will be a before and after. People ask, if we're coming back, if we're rebuilding, and it doesn't feel like the right terminology. What feels true is that we are beginning again, and really accounting for the resources that we have. And in so many ways, the community has been tightened. The weave of the community has been brought closer. And a lot of people just straight up had to leave. They lost their house, they lost their business, they lost their job, they couldn't pay their rent. And things are fast to disappear and slow to reappear. So we are still amidst a massive transition. And one of the things that I've really appreciated, this goes back to your culture question, Jake, is that right now, because we're in this transitional space, every action has a real outsized influence as to what this next iteration of the region's going to be. And so, an emphasis on kindness, an emphasis on cooperation and collaboration, and building a more sustainable economic system, all of these things are conversations. How people can help is to recognize that with some of the changes at other levels of government, the forecast is that our people in need of food aid is going to double. In just this county, about 17,000 people are going to be dropped from the Medicaid rolls. And so food, healthcare, housing, these basic human needs that were highlighted by the hurricane are exactly the kind of places we could stand to have donations sent to. So as you're looking at whether it be a Habitat for Humanity or mountain housing opportunities as a group here in town, Beloved Asheville is literally building houses with various communities. There were a bunch of Mennonites that came down that helped for a little while. For a while, there was this mule train coming up from Marion with some other Mennonites. They were awesome. It really comes down to some of the simpler things. The Tourism Development Authority would have you believe that you just need to come down here and spend money at the breweries, and that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. And there are people right now in this moment who don't have a place to live and don't have enough to eat and don't know how they're going to get their medical care.
Difficult question for you. Because, like, it is a massive tragedy. But what, like, do you want people to know? And what do you want people to do in their, like, immediate spheres of influence, in a sense? Like, I'm not really near North Carolina, but theoretically speaking, what could I do?
I want people to recognize that mutual aid is needed now, that we are in a polycrisis that is so keenly felt by so many, and that bringing close those people who are in proximity to you and learning to cooperate and collaborate with them in meaningful daily ways is the most valuable thing you can be doing.
Almost like a take influence from what happened and is currently happening in North Carolina, like around you, to then take and be like, hey, if this is going to theoretically ever be a thing for us, we at least have the groundwork already developed.
That's right. Yeah, if we presume that the climate crisis will affect all of us, then all of us are going to need this kind of collaborative effort at scale, at neighborhood scale, to be able to make it. We could do the laundry list of existential crises right now, but rather than drop into that abyss, just to recognize that our resilience, it doesn't lie with being rugged individualists. It really does lie with being able to take our areas of strength and expertise and pool them into ways that can strengthen the whole community.
Abso-freaking-lutely, right? Like, we're not going to survive the next, let alone 3 years, without coming together, right? And the only power the antagonists have is to split us apart, to draw lines on South versus North, Jersey versus Pennsylvania, doctoral level psychologist versus not doctoral level mental health professional. Like, who gives a shit? Right? We are all on the side of people getting what they need. And the more we remember that and honor that and center that in the work we do. I had a supervisor once criticize me for thinking too much like a social worker. She's like, you're always trying to connect people to resources. I'm like, yeah. Because when I was a depressed, anxious high school freshman and I found musical theater, that changed my life. Like, there was no CBT for that.
Right. That was about connection and mirroring and shared experience and feeling supported. Yeah.
And like, you cannot, like, therapy matters. Obviously it does, but like, it is an entirely separate kind of intervention and kind of impact when you can see someone, know who they are, know what they need, and find that thing for that person.
Right.
And when so much is taken from so many people, we are all called to help reconnect, right? And whether it's outside connecting inward or helping those communities knit back together, and this is why I'm glad that psychologists are no longer the invisible therapist is God. Like, we're in active members of our communities now. Like, people look to you as a leader, Gordon, and you are going to use your platform to help your fellow man. Like, not just, oh, hey, come down and visit the breweries, or hey, like, come support my small business therapy practice. But like, people are getting kicked off Medicaid, and there are towns that are gone. Like, those are bigger issues. And by drawing attention to that, you honor them, but you also honor our profession. And frankly, I think you honor yourself. And Jake is nodding vigorously, fans.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it could have been like not like represent yourself in what you're doing.
Hmm.
Because then it's like a whole chunk of like who you are, your experience, your entire history, your entire background. Just like, we're going to put that to the side and ignore all of this, which is just no.
Yeah, and that shift into authentic expression and to have that way, these ways of actuating it into the world is so much of what my work is about and what my practice is about and what our missions are about is to not be performative and center our existences on things that won't have mattered when the flood comes.
A second, third, fourth flood?
Yeah.
I think we're talking about physical and metaphorical floods right now. There's multiple floods.
Yeah.
All right. So, listeners, we don't ever ask you for these sort of things and do not feel like you must do this. But when this episode drops very close to the 1 year anniversary of these horrific floods, if you are able, it would be a really wonderful thing to use your scope of influence to give to some of the organizations that support the people who really need our help a year later. And Jake, we'll put those in the show notes.
Absolutely.
That's how we can do what we do, emphasizing the power that we all have. Because you know what? When we come together, we're pretty damn powerful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Uh, so yeah, that was very emotional and I appreciate it. And taking a deep breath. All right, Gordon, now we are going to move into the wrap up section of this podcast.
Okay.
Jake and I are each going to do our wrap up question. And then we'll pass the mic to you and you can send our listeners home with some words of wisdom. Jake, you want to kick it off?
Absolutely. And I have a quick question that I don't anticipate being actually like a quick answer, sadly.
Okay.
But you've mentioned consciousness a few times. And a question for you from that is, are you viewing consciousness in a universal consciousness that we all kind of pull from in our own experiences that we kind of go back to together?
What a fantastic question, right? Like, here's a whole like doctoral investigation that you've opened up here. I don't know what consciousness is. I know my experience of it, but whether you come at it from a materialistic space of like I've got a brain and my brain makes me conscious, or like I am the universe experiencing itself, consciousness is the ground of being, matter comes much further down the pike. They're great. I'm all for that conversation. And then in these practical places, it's how do I come into the fullest understanding and experience of my own consciousness, knowing that this is an ever evolving, growing, fractal waveform experience that I'm having in this body mind, and that it is made more of mystery than of anything else. In my creative consciousness work, in my practice, this is part of what we investigate is dropping into some of those creative flow states, and where the subconscious material gets mined, that what is not conscious can appear. And for many people, it is that sense of tapping into a consciousness that is a collective or something larger.
I'm here for it. And that goes right into my question for you. And I partly asked that so you couldn't say consciousness, if that is the answer for this question. But it's, what's your favorite word and why?
Currently, this changes a lot. So I'm a dictionary collector. I have a collection of dictionaries. I've got like 120 dictionaries. So I love words. And my current favorite word is flaneur. Flaneur. And flaneur is someone who essentially like ambles bemusedly through existence. There's something very relaxed and absurdist about this word and this role that one can occupy.
So we're clearly bringing this back. I want to be a professional flaneur. Can't you just see me sauntering into town with like a whimsical air? Like, whoa!
There it is. That's it. Yeah, the saunter and the whimsy. That's it.
Just showing up.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Are your oak trees as nice as other oak trees? And then I just saunter out of town. They're like, who is that masked man? Lenore.
Put like hat. Just keep going.
Ah, Bartholomew Cubbins. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I guess funny. I was going more Music Man, but I like yours. I like yours more. Okay. Lenore. Well, now I know I want to be when I grow up.
Mhm.
All right, Gordon, my question is going to be much more prosaic, and I don't apologize for that. If you could have any superhero on speed dial, who would it be and why? The man's got 133 dictionaries, but he doesn't have the Marvel dictionary.
I'll go with Doctor Strange.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah. I really like I really like his vehicles and the limitlessness of potential experience.
I love that. Jake, is that our first Doctor Strange?
I think it might be.
Yeah.
I think that's our first Doctor Strange.
Talk about a gifted kid who's having to overcome his perfectionism and overcome his limited self-concept in order to embody his destiny.
And a physical disability with his hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And understanding that limitless power, limitless knowledge doesn't lead to limitless happiness. And, all the stuff they played at in Marvel What If, where it's like, if you go after the things that you think will bring you joy, will they bring you more misery? And more importantly, will they hurt the people around you? And that's learning to let go and learning to not be perfect, where some of the hardest disintegrations that we have to go through as gifted adults.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange is a phenomenal example of that. So awesome. Great job. All right. Well, Gordon, 2 great answers. I will pass the mic to you. What do you want to send our listeners home with?
That it is scary becoming a person. And there will be plenty of people who caution you against being all of who you are. For fear you'll be rejected, for fear you won't be able to make it in neuronormative culture. What I want to tell people is that you get to take steps towards being your authentic self at the pace that works for you. I have so many people who show up and they say, I want to be more confident in myself. And my response is the same, which is that the predecessor of confidence is courage. And that moving toward these scary places, ideally with support and with people that can help you along the way, is that path to confidence, is that path to self-knowledge and self-trust. So do the scary thing.
That's just such a great quote. And I'm trying to mentally think about how we can make that the title of this episode in 2 months, but Jake, we'll figure that out. The requisite in self-confidence is courage.
Courage comes before confidence.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Gifted kid in me is like, not in the dictionary.
Not in my 120 dictionaries.
How about bravery? Bravery, does that work for you?
Bucket.
But it's not alliteration now. So the other aspect's going to be bothered.
We're going to have to figure this out. But yeah, that's for the post show. Gordon, I'm so lucky that I get to call you a colleague and a friend. I mean, you are a remarkable person and a great professional and a published poet, which we didn't even get to because you're so freaking interesting that it's like, oh, by the way, I posted poetry. It's like, of course you did. Damn you and your beautiful hair. All right. Well, then we'll have to just have you back and talk more shop in the future.
Happy to come back. Yeah, it's fun.
It was fun. For all of us here at Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, I thank you for being with us, learning from us, learning from an incredible guest, Gordon. And thank you as always for trusting us with your time. It means a lot to us. So, Jake, you want to send us out?
Absolutely. It was amazing to be here as always. Gordon, thank you so much. This was a great conversation and I loved all like the existential connections as well.
Oh my gosh, Jake, you did? You liked the existential stuff? Get out of town.
Yeah.
What?
I wonder why.
Oh, geez. All right.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for coming. Bye. Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodiversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.